And the update from FIFA is they anticipate that in the end of June of this month, they will have a FIFA Council meeting. So the new rules and regulations, as we've discussed in previous webinars, they have to be passed by the FIFA Council in order for them to come into effect. That hasn't taken place yet. That was supposed to take place in March. For some inexplainable reason, it was not put on the agenda in March. Some people think that's a sign that FIFA are concerned about the rules and regulations, that they're not entirely certain about litigation, that they're going to be sued by the super agents, and that may have been a reason why it wasn't put on the agenda for the March meeting. There isn't currently a FIFA Council meeting in the FIFA calendar, but they expect to announce a FIFA Council meeting at the end of June. The Department for Agents, which is the department in FIFA that sends the recommendations to the Council, will send that in the next 1 to 2 weeks. If they do have a meeting at the end of the month, then the Council will vote on the agent rules and regulations. Once it reaches the Council can have the right to pass all of the agent rules and regulations. They have the right to be able to pass some of the rules and regulations, and they have the right to just turn them away altogether. FIFA seems confident that the Council will pass all of the regulations, which if they do that in June at the end of this month, this October of 22 and in May of 23, there will be 2 agent exams. These are the exams that agents must pass in order to receive a license. If you were an agent before 2015, you would have had a license. You will not need to take an exam. If you became an agent after 2015, or as we call them today, an intermediary, then you will need to take the exam, and you will need to pass the exam to be granted a license to be able to continue to work as an agent. If you take the exam in October and you pass, then you get your license. If you take the exam in October and you fail, you will have another opportunity in May of next year. You can continue to work as normal until you pass the exam in May of next year. If you fail both exams, you won't be granted a license. The rules will come into place most likely the 1st of July of 2023 of next year, so just over 12 months from now. Until that time, until the rules come into place, everything will remain as normal as is today, the rules and regulations. And that's the current timetable from FIFA. Obviously, a number of things will occur. Excuse me. So should the Council pass the rules and regulations at the end of this month on June, there will be no doubt that in July, August, or soon after the Council passes the regulations, there will be litigation from some of the bigger agents around the world. They already have prepared their case. They just need the Council to actually pass the rules and regulations, because obviously you can't sue something that has not yet occurred. As PROFAA, we ourselves have now begun the process of looking into what legal action and legal avenues are available to us, same as the others. When the Council does or does not pass these rules and regulations, we will also take action of our own. But at the moment, the timetable is the rules will come into place July of 23. You'll have 2 opportunities to pass an exam to get a license, which is October this year and May of next year. There is the possibility that the Council will not meet at the end of June. There are other people who suggest that the Council will not meet and will not pass these regulations prior to the World Cup, because as you can imagine, they don't want controversy regarding bad publicity, legal cases against them in the lead into the World Cup. That's a possibility, but certainly FIFA think they will have their meeting at the end of June and they will pass these rules and regulations. The rules and regulations you've probably seen over the past. Michael's been very good in circulating communications and then copies of the rules. Obviously, basically the rule that mostly affects agents today is the rule whereby you can charge 10% up to $200,000 and then 3% after $200,000. Plus if the engaging club can also pay you 3%, so you can make a maximum of 6%. Fundamentally, PROFAA's position, the position of all agents, is we disagree completely. We don't believe that FIFA has the right to impose a cap on the agents. As most national laws will tell you, it's illegal to tell somebody how much livelihood that they can earn, which is fundamentally what is taking place here. We don't tell a waiter in a restaurant how much money he can earn from tips, for example. If he does a very good job and he makes an awful lot of money, then that's fantastic. But most national laws have protections built in to prevent anybody from telling somebody this is the maximum livelihood you can earn, which is effectively what FIFA are trying to do here. So they will face a huge amount of, they will face a lot of court cases, litigation, even within FIFA, the member associations. So they already tried to use a country to launch these rules and regulations almost as a test case, which, funny enough, is the country that I currently live in, Australia. In Australia, the Football Association told FIFA that they will not put the rules and regulations into place. And if they did, they would only put in place licensing and some of the other rules, but they refused to put a cap on agents. So this is very good news, I think, for agents around the world, because now FIFA will see that the first country they attempted to put these rules into has told them, no, they will not cap agents. Hopefully this is something that will be recreated around the world by many of the member associations. It's important for agents to lobby their national association to tell FIFA not to do this. That's what I did in Australia. I spoke to Football Australia and I told them that it's illegal to put this cap. And then they wrote to FIFA and told FIFA they refused to put the cap on agents. So now we have FIFA seeing that even their own member associations have said to them, we won't cap agents. So that's basically an update on exactly where we are today. That's an idea of the next 12 months, how it will possibly look for agents. And if anyone has any questions about any of that, I'm happy to answer anything.
If you have any question from the briefing, you can just raise your hand before we move. Okay.
Dave, you have a question? You want to unmute and ask?
Okay, Anthony.
Okay. Hello, hi, thanks so much for that briefing.
Sorry, Anthony, I can barely hear you.
Speak louder, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Louder, please, louder.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Just about,
Okay.
Anthony, yeah.
Okay. Oh, sorry, let me just increase the speaker. I'm sure you can hear me now, please. Hello?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, Paddy, thanks so much for that briefing there. I really appreciate that. So I think my question goes like this. I want to find out, now, after this regulation, would the new agents now be operating within the same national borders, or they would now have become a global agent that can operate from every other country?
You're just breaking up, Anthony, but I think that your question was asking that when you get a new agent's license, that it's a global license. Is that what you asked?
Yes, that's what I'm asking, yes.
Yeah, so when you get a license, for example, if you do the exam in October, let's say, and depending what country you're in, you go to to do the exam and you are granted a license, that license is global. That will allow you to be a football agent in any country in the world. So, I mean, the only thing that you may find is in different national associations. So, for example, if I went to do the exam in Nigeria, the Nigerian Football Association may say, oh, you need to pay $50 to do the exam because that's what they will charge, just so that they have to spend some time and organize the exam, etc. But your license is a global license to operate anywhere globally.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, Paddy, I have some questions there. Oh, and I would like you to explain a bit to our members online and those that will be watching later. This new regulation, is it a denial of access to the profession of agent business or whatever? Does it look like a denial of access? I said the new FIFA agent regulation, to some, it looks like a denial of access to the profession. So how can you explain that?
Well, it's a denial of your entire business almost. It's not anything even specific. It's just fundamentally everybody's business model is similar, right? We all normally you sign up players. A lot of them are younger players that we spend time, we spend money, we spend effort trying to build these players up. Normally that's the part where you're investing in your business, right? Your asset's not yet worth a huge amount of money at that stage, but the more you invest in your asset, when your asset, for example, then becomes a very good player and is ready to transfer to Europe or to a bigger market, that's when your asset becomes valuable to you. And that's when you try to claim value back from your asset. And effectively, the rules that FIFA are currently trying to put in place is telling you you can only get so much value from your asset. You're not allowed to get, you can't maximize the asset value in your business. You can only get so much value. And that's what we say is incorrect, because any business in the world should have the right to try and maximize the value of the assets in their business. To tell people, we don't tell Apple, you can only charge $200 per phone. Apple charge whatever they want to charge. And if the next phone's better than the previous one, they will charge you more for the new stuff that's in it. So there's no businesses really that you tell around the world that you can only do this. And this is what's happening to agents. We're being told, we all know fundamentally that the rules and regulations are being built to tackle super agents, the guys. So in the Halland deal, for example, the agent's fees are about £50 million. So these rules and regulations are designed to try to stop the agents in that deal from making £50 million. But there's very few people, and probably none of us here in this meeting, who are charging £50 million in one transfer deal. So the vast majority of us, which is all of us here probably, and just about 99% of agents around the world, we're not doing one transfer deal where we earn £50 million. So the rules are designed to tackle 1%. And it won't tackle those 1% because they have many, many ways of collecting that money anyway. So it's all of us whose businesses, whose assets that we've built, and some people have been agents here for maybe 1 or 2 years, but some people maybe for 10, 12, 15 years here. And like anything, imagine I've been doing it for 31 years. So if I was to take an example, if I owned a small restaurant and I put 31 years into that restaurant and I keep making good money, somebody comes and says, I can only make $2,000 a week now in this restaurant. I've put 31 years of my life and time into my business, and now someone tells me how much I can make from my restaurant, and that's not fair, which is what we're trying to explain. But it's definitely, it impacts, if you look at your business in terms of asset value, it's telling you you can only get X amount of value from your assets in your business. So it denies you the opportunity to grow your business, to profit from your business after you've already done time, work, efforts, and probably paid a lot of money of your own pocket to build your business.
Okay. Thank you for the explanation. No, it's true, no one will tell Apple how much he should sell his product. But unto us, FIFA is trying to cap what we benefit from the sales of players. In Africa, let's say in Western Africa, there are laws of the land that are against capping of, like what FIFA is trying to do. There are laws in some West African countries that go against it. Can such country put their law at the forefront of their football? You know, as you said, Australia said, the Australian football is putting the laws of Australia ahead of the laws of FIFA. So can the African too, can they go in the same way of Australian football?
100%. Not only that, almost every European country will do this because, again, FIFA is a private organization. It has they do not have any power over the law of any country. The law of a country is the most important thing in every single country. Nobody has the right to come to any West African, East African, South, North African country and tell them that you must change the laws of your country. They have no power to do anything with this. And so it is in each country that, so for example, the super agents in Europe, they will launch cases against FIFA from places like Germany, Spain, England. So they will face many cases in many different countries. The laws of those countries, like I mentioned at the very beginning, you can't in any country tell somebody in your life, you can go to work and you can only make this amount of money. Nobody has the right to if you do very well and you build a business or whatever, and you make a lot of money, that's perfectly okay. And in any country in the world, that's the results of your effort, how clever you are, your labor, everything. So this is fundamentally the problem. And FIFA will face this in many countries because some countries will say it's not possible to put so in France, for example, in Italy, they have separate agent regulations, and they for sure will not allow a cap on agents because the laws of their countries just won't allow this to happen. But agents in various countries, if you have relationships built with your national association, same as what I've done in Australia, I just went and I explained to them that fundamentally this is illegal. And if you do this, you may face legal action. And so if every country does that, maybe FIFA will say, hey, you know what, we can't do this because too many countries have said no. They can only do this, FIFA, if every country adopts this. So FIFA can't put these rules in place if currently, I think, 217 countries in FIFA. If 67 countries decided we won't put a cap on agents, then this doesn't work at all. They need everyone to do it or it won't work. You can't have little places that, you know, this country is capped on agents, that country doesn't have a cap on agents. Otherwise, every agent will just base himself in a country that doesn't have a cap. So at this stage, all of you might end up coming and living in Australia.
That is true. And does FIFA has its justification for capping agents' remuneration? Is there any justification for it?
Now, look, officially, they will tell you that that their official line, if you like, is that too much money is leaving football through agents. So again, they will use the examples of the big super agents making 40, 50 million pounds in a transfer deal. And so their argument is that's too much money leaving football, that could stay in football, that could be used for development or junior clubs, except all of this stuff, which really is just complete rubbish. At the end of the day, the reality is those clubs are happy to pay that money to those agents. The money does not start with the agents. The money starts in the club. That's the origin of the money. It sits in a club's bank account. Where it ends up is in an agent's bank account. So they're not attacking the source of the money, because if Man City and PSG are happy to pay that money, if you don't stop them paying the money, you can't. All they're trying to do is stop agents from receiving the money. They should be trying to tell the clubs, you shouldn't be paying this kind of money. Or instead of paying 50 million, pay 20 million. But instead, because they are a stakeholder body, the clubs, same as the players have a stakeholder body, they are protected from a lot of this. And so agents are the easy people to attack through rules and regulations to stop that money. They're trying to stop the people receiving the money rather than the people giving the money. I don't personally agree with their justification, because to say it's money leaving football is rubbish. I mean, if we pay a player 20 million euros in salary per year and he buys 12 supercars, is that not money leaving football as well? How does a guy buying 12 Lamborghinis, how does that help junior football or junior players or junior clubs? It doesn't. That's money leaving football, but nobody complains about that. If he buys 10 mansions or 10 houses, that's money leaving football as well. When a club buys a player for $80 million and sells him for $40 million, that's $40 million that just disappeared as well. That's 40 million has left football. So there's lots of places that money leaves football, but it's normal. That's a marketplace. And that's what happens. Same in the stock exchange, right? Companies go up and down in value and money just disappears into the air through the value of a stock. So for them to say money leaving football paid to agents is not correct, in my opinion. It leaves football in many different ways. Agents, I think, are just the easiest group for FIFA to attack. And that's the purpose, by the way, of associations like ours, like yours, is to start to bring all the agents together, because the more of us that there are and the more of us that come together within associations, then we will start to have a more powerful voice, because they will see numbers and they will say, hey, there's an association in Africa, for example, that has 400 or 500 agents. There's an association here with 500 agents, and slowly but surely we start to get to a few thousand agents, and we will have a stakeholder body. And with the stakeholder body, we will be able to fight not just with FIFA Pro on player matters, with AFFAA on club matters, because we will finally have people listening to what we have to say.
All right, thank you. Now, if you have questions, you can raise your hand. But Paddy, let's talk about the proportionality of the new agent regulation by FIFA. How does this licensing system differ from the previous player agent regulation edition, the previous edition?
It's very much the same. So it will be, so previously you had a multiple choice exam. You had to pass a certain number of questions. And when you pass that, you get given your license. The exam will basically be built all around the RSTP, which is the rules and regulations around the status and transfer of players. There's different versions of it. It's probably around 450 pages long. So it's a fairly big document. What we have asked, again, through associations, is we've asked FIFA that we need to have information and help for agents to try and give them an idea of the type of areas that questions will be asked, because let's be honest, for some of us to study a 450-page document is a lot. And then to be asked some tough questions about it. What we don't want is that the exam for agents prevents agents from coming into the industry or from getting a license. It shouldn't be an exam that stops people from working, or people who already have started to work and have a business. It shouldn't drive them out of the industry. The intention is that we help people. It's really just designed to test agents to say, hey, do you know and understand the rules and regulations? In terms of if you are transferring a player, do you know what you have to do that? That's fine. That's, people should learn that anyway if you want to be an agent and transfer a player. But it shouldn't be, we're not trying to work for NASA here. We're not trying to become rocket scientists. So we try to help with this as well and try and get educational assistance first for people before they go to the exam, so they can practice, test themselves, get an idea of what they will do. But the licensing process itself will be very, very similar to what it was previously. It will be multiple choice, probably 20 questions. We haven't finalized yet how many questions you have to get correct, maybe 15 or 16. And if you get those correct, you get a license. That license will allow you to operate globally. So that's how that will look, Michael.
Okay, thank you. Fifth youngster, you can go ahead with your question. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good
Youngster,
afternoon, everybody.
Hi there.
My
good afternoon.
question is this. Yes. First of all, I'm very sorry I came in late. So I don't know if they have asked some questions that I'm gonna ask right now. Yeah, my first question is this. I've met some football agents in Nigeria here. What they have is NFF license, and they call themselves FIFA agent. Is that right? That's number one. And then number two, you know, in Nigeria here, it's hard to see a very good player who has the right mentality, the attitude, and everything. So we prefer to catch them young and bring them up by ourselves. How do you now get your money being a sponsor, the manager, and you know, and they said FIFA said you can't get more than 10% and all. So I don't know how we can go about this, being the sponsor, being the manager, and you know, is that right for an agent, for example, to have a football club? Is that okay? Thank you.
No problem. So the first question that you had, when you said that these guys are registered NFF, I think you said. I don't know what that is. Is that something that's specifically by the Nigerian Football Association?
Yeah, NFF is Nigeria Football Federation.
Right. So
what he's trying to say is, when we discussed with some agents in Nigeria, what they possess is a license, an intermediary license, and they proclaim to be a FIFA agent. That is asking if it is true.
Okay. So today, in football transfers, representation, etc., a FIFA license from previous to 2015 means nothing whatsoever. The only requirement you have under FIFA law today is to be a registered intermediary. And in 2015, when they abandoned licensing, that just means that each member association, so the Nigerian Football Association, if you want to be an agent, all you do is register. It's just a registration system. It's not a license, nothing whatsoever. So, and what you will see if you do business in other countries is you are required then to register in those countries. So for example, I am registered in Australia, I am registered in England, Germany, America, just because when I've done deals for a player to go to those countries, I had to be registered in that country. That will disappear, but intermediary is just a registration system. So if somebody had a FIFA agent's license from before 2015, great, but today that doesn't really matter. That's no different. That has no benefit over a registered intermediary. In the future, maybe, but not today. So it doesn't matter today, and they only have to be a registered intermediary to be able to be involved in football transfers. With your second question, it's not permissible under FIFA law for an agent to also own a club, same way as it's not permissible for a player to own a club. This basically comes back to laws around conflict of interest. And even more so moving forward, these kinds of things, the detail of agent services and then football services will become a lot clearer. I think these things exist in certain parts of the world, particularly in places like South America. I think people will be heavily sanctioned moving forward if they are involved in ownership of a club. So while it may take place, it's not supposed to be permissible, but that does not mean it doesn't take place. People aren't supposed to steal things from other people, but every day around the world, somebody's stealing something from someone. So permissible and whether it actually happens are two different things.
Actually, as an agent, you are not allowed to participate in club licensing or being a chairman or president of a club. And also, you are not permitted to sponsor a football club, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so you are not permitted to have anything doing with sponsoring a club or football league anywhere.
Sure.
So,
basically what occurs or how it happens is if an agent is involved in a club, his shareholding in that club will normally be held in the name of a family member or his wife. And that is the manner in which they generally do this, even though, as Michael said, they're not supposed to do it. They're not supposed to be involved at all, because again, it comes down to conflict of interest.
Yeah, the next question. Anthony.
Okay, Mr. Paddy, I just wanted to find out something. Paddy, can you hear me? I've been trying to fix my, okay. So after this new licensing scheme, the examination and the licensing of players, after the new regime, is there going to be some form of financial system for renewal of the license, or is it just going to be operated naturally like the
sorry, Anthony, I couldn't hear you just there, that last part. After the agent licensing, is there some sort of financial, and I couldn't hear the rest?
I wanted to find out, yes, is there some sort of
switch to Nigeria now.
Renewal fee? Is there going to be a renewal fee?
Fees. Yeah. So when you take out your license, you will pay to FIFA a license of, I think it's 500 or 600 Swiss francs, and that gives you your global license. Look, in general, with the agent rules and regulations, there are some good things. It's not a case of everything about them is bad. There will be obviously a clearinghouse. So in terms of, I'm sure many people here who have worked as agents, you've all at some point had problems getting paid by clubs or players, etc. That also will be tackled in these rules and regulations, and FIFA are setting up an agent working group, dispute resolution chambers, which will help agents to make sure that when you perform a transfer, do a deal, that you get paid. And if not, there will be sanctions against clubs and whoever doesn't pay you. This will all be parts built into this fee that you pay for your license, because once you're licensed, you will have the access to these protections under these rules and regulations. But you will pay one fee to FIFA. And like I said, the only other thing you may have to pay is if a national association, for example, says to you, yes, when you come to do the exam, you need to pay, I don't know, $50, because we need to have staff who need to put the exam on, check it, prepare it, all of that, send it to FIFA. So you may have to pay a small administration fee to your own national association to sit the exam. But other than that, you just pay one fee.
Okay. And then after you get the license, you are not required to renew the license every year.
We don't know that yet. That's something we've asked FIFA, Anthony, to clarify. And obviously what we have said to FIFA that paying it every year, 600 euros is, or sorry, Swiss francs, is very expensive for some people. So that's the renewal side of it. They're still in discussions about, but certainly at the beginning, you will just pay one fee. So for example, when I'm registered in a number of countries, every year I have to pay to each country whatever fee they ask you for as a registered intermediary, which for me is almost thousands of dollars every year. So in my situation, I would be happy just to pay 600 francs to one person and not have to pay many different people lots of different fees. And we're very aware that obviously there are agents in you know, countries where that's a significant amount of money for them to have to pay. So certainly from association perspective, myself, Michael, and then these other associations, we're always working to try and keep the fees very low, or as low as possible. We don't know about the renewal yet, Anthony.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. I think you're on mute, Michael. Michael, you're on mute.
Okay. Do the licensing requirements go beyond what is necessary to achieve the objective? That's what I want to ask.
Do the licensing requirements, sorry?
Go beyond what is necessary to achieve. I mean, the licensing requirement, does it go beyond what is necessary to achieve the objective? I mean, what FIFA is trying to do.
I don't think so. I think the licensing requirements, you know, as long as, again, like I mentioned, from an exam perspective, it can't be a barrier to people to either enter the business or stay in business. It should be fair. It should just be a relatively basic test of knowledge to know that people know what they are doing. I don't think if you want to be in a professional industry, that's a problem. The licensing side of things, I think, is not a huge problem. I think that aspect of the rules and regulations is okay as long as it's managed. The big problem everybody has, and the real issue with all of these rules and regulations, is the references to capping, to having a cap on agents' commission. There's some issues around connected agent services, because of course most agents around the world, especially when you're transferring players, internationally, you work in a network of agents, right? So if you have say a colleague in France and you're moving a player there, you don't really want to limit anything around what you and your partner in France can do. So I think the licensing is fine. I think it meets it does what it's supposed to do in terms of just trying to get rid of some of the people that shouldn't be in the industry. It's more just around the capping of commissions, some of the language around agent services, connected agents, possibly even, you know, some people often ask, you know, the issues are things like, why can an agent acting for a club, no matter what the amount is, earn 10%, but agents acting for players, for example, can make 10% to a threshold and then only 6% after. So you're kind of rewarding people who act for a club rather than people who act for a player. So they're the main issues, but the actual licensing is an element of the rules and regulations, certainly in my opinion, that I think is good, because it means, you know, any old person who just decides today, hey, I'll just register and become an agent, I don't need to learn any rules, I don't need to know what it's about. I think it just forces them to have to do some study to make sure that they do know the rules and regulations, and that will be better for their business. It will be better for the player. It will be better for them being recognized as a professional by clubs and in the industry. It makes the industry as a whole appear more professional, and with that comes a lot more respect from other parties. So I think it does achieve what it's meant to achieve. Yeah, it's just the other issues away from the licensing side that I think is a problem.
All right. So, sorry. From PROFAA perspective, what is PROFAA stand in this new FIFA against regulation?
Our stance
You know,
is
as AFFAA Parent Association. So, what is the stance of PROFAA?
our stance is very simple, is we don't agree with the rules and regulations, particularly with any form of caps. We don't agree with the current proposal that FIFA have placed. During our negotiations and consultations with FIFA, we've always maintained that as an absolute very base minimum, and this is the floor, not the ceiling, agents should be entitled to earn 10% no matter what happens. So yeah, obviously, if they don't listen and they just want to implement their rules and regulations, like I said, once the council actually does approve those rules and regulations, then PROFAA, similar to many other people, we will look at what legal avenues are available to attack this, and then obviously to appeal against whatever FIFA implement. If they had have listened to all of the concerns that we had presented, if they had demonstrated that they had listened, if they made changes according to what we proposed, well, then we would have a very good working relationship. But I made them aware in Madrid last week that if the council does implement and pass these rules and regulations, then the very next week, PROFAA will, similar to everyone else, look at the legal action available to us to appeal against these things. From the very beginning, my original suggestion to FIFA was, why don't you put the rules and regulations like licensing and that stuff in place, and then for a period of 2 years, let's work on getting the rules and regulations right and correct. And then maybe after we have all of that stuff to the stage where it works and then agents are happy, FIFA's happy, we can maybe have a discussion about some form of caps. And then maybe for 2 transfer windows, we could try whatever caps we could agree, see if it works, or if it doesn't work, and if it doesn't work, no caps. But that would have been a sensible, that would have been a collaborative way of having the agents have a big say in what the rules and regulations would be. It would have been a way of testing it without just putting all the rules straight on agents and hurting agents. But they've chosen not to go down that path. So look, our stance has always been to maintain dialogue with FIFA and anyone else. I will go and see the president of FIFA Pro as well during my trip here. And until such time as the actual rules and regulations are passed by the FIFA Council, we will continue to present our message that it's not acceptable. That's our job, that's our role, is to try and give a voice to all of you guys and many others, 20,000 agents, intermediaries in the world. And very few of them have a voice to be able to tell FIFA that we're not happy. That's exactly what we're here to do, and keep on telling and keep on telling. And if they don't listen, well, we're left with no option but to oppose them, which is what we will do.
Okay. Dave, want to say something? Unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Clearly.
Dave?
Okay, yeah. Mr. Paddy.
Yep.
First and foremost, I want to thank you for all the efforts for enlightening some of us about some of the challenges that is on ground and all that now. I learned from some of the questions of my colleagues that they asked not quite long. I got some of the answers you gave them, and I learned a lot from it. But I have just one question. After talking about about 450 pages of material to prepare one for that exam, how do someone actually get that material to prepare himself for that exam? Is it from the FA? And can you get it across for us, or we have to talk to Mike to get it? Because that's the most important. I mean, some of us that are ready to do it, then we can start preparing for it. That's the question I have. Thank you very much.
No problem. The answer,
Once the
Dave,
RSVP is available, I will share it with you guys.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It's on the FIFA website, Dave. It's difficult, right? Because if you go to your printer and you press print on a document that's 450, maybe
Difficult.
475 pages, you will be standing next to your printer for at least 2 hours just feeding paper all day. It's crazy.
That's
And
true.
so what we hope to do at some point is to try and through Michael and through the associations is to give information on these are the areas just to try and save you maybe, I don't know, if we can save you 150 pages that you don't have to read, we will try to help with that.
Oh, thanks, then. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Yeah, Anthony.
Okay, thanks so much for that, Paddy. I think I was just going to ask the same question that Dave asked, because I had tried to, my understanding was that you can actually go to the FIFA website and download the status and transfer of players, which should be the standard documentation required for the exam. And I tried doing that before, and I discovered the version I got was 80 pages. I think it's about 88 pages, but since you mentioned that there's another documentation of 400 pages or so, and then I think it would be important to get that. I don't know if that's readily available online or it has to be communicated. That is one part. And then secondly, on the capping, my second question also goes on the capping. I know there are in transactions, there is the entire package of the transaction, and then there's also payment that you get from.
Sorry, Anthony, you're just breaking up there on your second question. Could you just repeat that? And could you just speak a little bit slower, please?
Okay. Yes, so for my second question, what I wanted to find out is, this 10%, does it apply for the entire transfer fee, or is it the amount that you get from the player when the player is being paid every month?
So sure. The cap at the moment is based on what you negotiate for the player's salary. So if you move a player to Europe and let's say he makes $500,000, the first $200,000 that the player makes, you will be able to charge 10%. So you will get $20,000 for that. And then the other $300,000, the maximum you can get is if the player will pay you 3%. And if the club agrees to pay you another 3%, you can make 6%. So that will give you another $18,000 on that $300,000. So you would get on a $500,000 a year player's salary, you will collect $38,000. And so what we've said to FIFA is that's not acceptable. And as you can imagine, if you move even further up, let's say that player becomes a fantastic player. Let's say he gets $20,000 a week, which is about $1 million a year. On $1 million a year, again, you'll get your $20,000 for up to the $200,000 mark. And then you will potentially, as a maximum, and if it's not a maximum, the minimum will be 3, you will get $6,000 per 100, which means you'll get $48,000. So you'll make $68,000 while the player gets $1 million a year. And so what we said is that doesn't work. So after 4 years, the player gets $4 million and the agent doesn't even make $200,000. So this is why we explain this does not work, because most likely the player has gotten that $1 million because the agent will have helped the player particularly when he was younger, when he didn't have money, when people didn't know who the player was. And that's when agents do a lot of work to make people aware of the player, try to help build him up. So to say to an agent, hey, you can go and make players multi-millionaires, but you can't even make $200,000 for making $4 million for a player, that's not fair. If somebody made me $4 million, I'm fairly sure I'd be happy to give him a little bit more money.
Sure, at least minimum of $500,000. In that
well, again, that's why
absolutely.
So in that example, our like I said, our very basic minimum was 10%, but that's just the minimum. So in that example, if we had made $4 million for a player, we would get $400,000. That's a little bit fairer. I mean, to put it in perspective for you, guys like, say, Paul Pogba in his Manchester United deal, Paul makes about £13 million a year, but his agent made £46 million. So the agent there actually made not far off 4 times more money than the guy makes per year. But that's, again, that's 0.1% of agents in that group. The rest of us are not in that group. And moving forward, what FIFA would say in that deal is if Paul Pogba over 4 years makes 49, let's call it £50 million, that agent would have got £20,000 up to 200,000. So that's 80,000, and then he'd probably have made around 1.4 million pounds, while he made the player 50 million pounds. So as you can see, it's not, that's why we say it's not fair. It doesn't work because the player wins, the club wins, the agent does all the work, and the agent gets very little money. And again, it's the same, right? We don't put caps in real estate. If I go to sell a house, different real estate people want to sell my house. Some of them will lower their commission, some will higher their commission, etc. Ultimately, I will pick whoever I want to sell my house. But nobody's telling them you can only ask for this amount of money. That's the marketplace will decide how much money they will charge me. And if a guy's too expensive, I won't take him. But if he's expensive and I think, well, I can pay him that because I know he will get me a good price for my house, then I'm happy to pay him. And that's why we get our commission as a percentage, right? Because the better we do, the more our percentage is worth. And that's how it should be. The only problem is FIFA's set such a low percentage. It doesn't matter how good a job we do, we cannot make enough money.
Okay. Who else? Okay, in the absence of no question. Okay, let me ask this, Paddy. So, and after this, we are going to close for today. That is, we have tried to cover all the points in 1 hour. So, the new FIFA regulation, what is the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Well, and this is my opinion, obviously everyone's entitled to have their own opinion. The good is licensing, and the good is paying one fee to FIFA. The good is having an agent working group that helps to protect the interests of agents. The good is ensuring that when agents are involved in a deal, that they will be paid, because it can be very expensive if you don't have any protection to have to go hire lawyers, chase clubs in certain countries, and in some countries they just don't even care about the law. So they're the good aspects. The bad aspect for me is I don't think that FIFA have listened to the concerns of agents around the world enough. I think that they have put these rules and regulations in place only with a small group of 10, 12 super agents in mind. That's what they had in their heads when they put these rules and regulations together. And I can understand a little bit because the publicity probably wasn't good to see. I mean, I don't think that the agents should be making £50 million in one deal. I mean, I've nothing against them. If they manage to make that, good luck to them. That's their good fortune. I don't think in general, though, the market will sustain that kind of earnings, but they're exceptional deals. They're not the representative of most deals that take place for among most of us. So that's the bad aspect for me, is that they're designed not for us, for the general population. It's just a very elite small group that these rules and regulations are designed. And the ugly is very, very simple. The ugly is, and it's as ugly as it can be, is a very low commission cap. because for the same reason as the second part, the bad part, most of the transfers, most of the deals that agents are involved in, there isn't enough money at that level of a cap for people to make a good living. And look, ultimately, agents do this to make a living, right? To make a good living, and then hopefully you will have one or two exceptional players, and your good living becomes a fantastic living. But you will go through a lot of ups and downs in this business. You will go through a lot of pain. You'll have some great times as well. But it is a living. It's no different to somebody who's trying to run a cafe or any other type of business. And so putting a cap so low on our living is basically telling people who have commitments that this is as much as a living as you can make from that. So I don't know how that will impact the industry. I don't know how many people will say I can't make a living and they will leave. I don't know how many people will want to become an agent. I think there are some agents who think that it's a good thing because it will remove a lot of agents from the marketplace. And then even at sort of 3-6%, they'll have a lot more clients because agents will have left. I think that's a huge mistake. I think that's a very poor attitude towards that. And I think that will ultimately, because I've had businesses over 31 years where I've had over 100 players. And I can tell you that when you try to look after huge numbers of players, it is very difficult and it just explodes on you. You're much, much better to have a smaller, good group of players to manage than a large group. So these guys who have these plans to, hey, well, when all these agents leave, I'll have a lot of players, that won't work. They'll learn the hard way. I mean, over 31 years, I've learned that. So these guys will learn that too. So yeah, the ugly part is just the cap. It's telling people that you can only earn so much. It's basically not market. It's not market friendly. The market sorts itself out, right? So even if we had agreed with FIFA minimum of 10% for agents, some agents can go and charge 15% if they want. But the player could say, well, I'm not prepared to pay 15%, so I'm going to sign with the agent who charges 10%. We have that today in the marketplace anyway. So agents will charge, there's agents who charge 5%, there's agents who charge 12%, and there's everything in between. Players will end up deciding what they will charge. An agent can decide today how much he will charge, and if the player wants to pay that, fine. If he doesn't, well, then he'll go somewhere else. So, but that's the nature of a market, is as your business, you get to set what you want to earn. You're allowed to be as successful as you can be. The cap stops you from being super successful, and it basically says no matter how hard you work and how much you do and how many players you act for, this is as much as you can make, and that's not fair. So that's the very, very ugly part of this. And you'll see that in national laws all around the world. I think that's the reason in national laws we don't allow monopolies like this. People can go out, build a business, and be as successful or as unsuccessful as they choose. You can work as many hours or as little hours as you wish. So yeah, they're the three aspects of that, Michael, in my opinion.
All right. Thank you. You actually did justice to all the lingering questions. Does anyone have a question before we close for today? Eddie. Okay, in the absence of no questions. At the same time on Friday, 3rd of June, we will be here discussing how you can benefit from the market, from the Asia market, football market, the Oceania market, and the South American and the American market. The president of Professional Football Agents Association of Asia will be in our midst. Likewise, the president of the Oceania Football Agents Association will be in our midst. A board member of the Agents Association of American and South American too will be in our midst. And our president of presidents will be a special guest on Friday. So you can actually transfer your player from Africa to Asia directly to South America, like Colombia, Uruguay. We can test those markets too. We are too focused to the European market. At least we can take advantage of the other market. So that's what we are going to discuss on Friday. Don't miss it. You know, try to be part of the show. Thank you, Paddy, for your time. I hope you will enjoy the rest of your day. And
thank you.
You know, Europe is not Australia, so the food there is not like what you what you eat in Australia. So you enjoy the best you can.
I certainly will, and thank you, Michael, for having me on, and thank you for allowing me to speak to your members. It's always good to speak, listen to your opinions, your questions. I urge all of you as people working in this industry to get behind your association, get behind Michael, and try and encourage as many agents, people involved in the football industry to join the association, because the more numbers, the bigger we are, the more we get to speak with FIFA, UEFA, FIFA Pro. So always try to encourage as many of the guys as possible to join, get involved, because it's strength in numbers and united. That's how we will be able to change the rules and then make a better working environment for all of us. So I think Michael does a fantastic job as president of your association. He's respected by myself, my organization, FIFA. We just need to keep building numbers and build momentum, and then they will listen to what we have to say. So thank you, Michael, for the opportunity. It's always great to speak to your members and yourself, obviously.
Thanks so much, Paddy. I hope when next we call you, you will answer us.
Thanks for your time, gentlemen. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you. Take good care of yourself, and my regards to all the members of PROFAA.
I will see Robbie Fowler, and I will tell him you're not happy that we lost in the Champions League final, Mike.
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. All right.
No
Thank you.
guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.